Hi, friends. Amelia Rolopoli here from Pebble, joined by my friend and colleague, Susan Blank with QuestResearch Group. Susan, it's been a minute. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, Amelia. Doing okay.
The subject of this mini webinar today, we recently did a little survey of US adults about the holiday. So I'm going to share my screen. You want to take us through it and let's share with our friends
Yeah,
what's
I
going on.
will. Around the week of Halloween, we went out and surveyed 500 Americans across the U.S., adults ages 18 and older, and we asked them questions about the upcoming holiday season. We wanted to get a sense of how are they thinking about this holiday season? Do they expect it to be different? If so, how? What's important to them this season? So probably not a huge surprise. Vast majority expect this holiday season to be different, 66%. Um, the main takeaway, if you say it in one sentence, is just people expect it to be a lot more subdued. Americans told us in the open-ended questions where we asked them to write in their thoughts, they told us they just don't expect to be going to parties this year. They're not going to be going out to social events. They are sad that they're going to miss shopping at the mall or wherever they go during the holiday season where it's festive. They just know they're going to have to forego these things or do them at a much smaller scale.
Yeah, totally. And what's funny is when you shared this with me, I was like, yeah, well, intuitively as a marketer, it makes sense that people are going to be celebrating differently this year because everything feels very different this year. Our family, we're actually going to be doing it on a different day. And we're going to be actually, instead of me making a Thanksgiving meal, we're actually going to order takeout from our very favorite sushi restaurant here, which is family owned and operated. So we figured let's support local business and have a special, if unusual, Thanksgiving meal. So I can relate to that.
Nice. Well, it's a year where it's going to have to be different, so might as well go all in and have some fun with it. So we asked people to write in their thoughts about how they thought the holiday season would be different. We also asked them to say, hey, what are you looking forward to? And a lot of people talked about family and friends. They are really looking forward to spending the time with family and friends, even if it means fewer family members or fewer friends this year. On the sadder side, we heard a lot of people talking about it was going to be a very quiet season, and they weren't happy about that. And many people wrote in that they thought this holiday season would be lonely.
It has to be a very difficult emotional time for a lot of Americans for all the reasons that we just discussed, and it has to be additionally stressful too. And again, as people who work in marketing and in research, like you and I know that. But it really makes a difference when we're talking with customers, whether it's through qualitative research or doing surveys like this, where people can express to us like how they are feeling. It's important to acknowledge that in a way. It's hard, and I don't want to make this, webinar kind of a Debbie Downer, but the reality is it's really difficult times. And it would seem to me that the more businesses can recognize where consumers are truly at and where their customers are at, the better off they're going to be. The unemployment benefits from the federal government are set to expire the end of this year, right? And so that's going to result in increased hunger and more evictions for a lot of Americans, and it's
And I think
tough.
there's a lot of stress around that, not knowing how you're going to pay your rent, how you're going to make your mortgage payments after December.
Yeah.
So I think, and also even for those people that are employed, there is a big question mark. What's first quarter going to look like? Am I still going to have a job come spring? So Americans are very cautious going into this holiday season. And you can see that when we ask them about spending. 52% expect to spend less on decorations, and 46% expect to spend less on gifts. Now, what was interesting in the open ends where people wrote in comments, what I gleaned from that was that it's not just the economy that's driving that, but it's also the fact that they're going to be going to less parties. They're going to have less people over to their house, so they don't need to buy as many gifts for their nieces and nephews. Or at least it's an excuse during this, soft economic period to forego buying a lot of gifts this season.
But interestingly, it makes me wonder, not just in the gifting area, but also the fact that in a way our lives are a little simpler because most Americans are not going out as frequently. They're not going to movies. They're not going out to socialize or to go to events. So I wonder if this could possibly generate for some sectors of the consumer market, customers who are actually able to put away a little more money because they're actually not spending as much as they were before the pandemic.
Yeah, that may be the case. I think it depends on the economic situation for each household and whether the adults in the household are employed.
Good point. Good point.
We're going to see a lot more spending online this holiday season, though. That is one change. And I've told you before, like when SARS-1 hit China several years back, that's when online shopping really boomed in China. And I think we're going to see like a similar increase for people who maybe traditionally really enjoyed going to the mall or to the shopping center during the holidays. They're going to be shopping online. And it's not that we haven't had people shop online in big numbers before during the holidays, but it's going to go up. I was reading comments from people who said, well, we're not going to be going and waiting in line all Thanksgiving night anymore. None of that this year.
No Black Friday.
The Black Friday and the pre-Thanksgiving rush for the Black Friday is not going to be happening. Or if it's happening, it's going to happen online, and it's going to definitely feel a lot different. And in fact, on this note, I mentioned to my husband, who tends to procrastinate a lot for holiday shopping, so we can't do that this year because, already deliveries from Amazon now take much longer than pre-pandemic. So I think that's another thing for consumers to think about. If you're going to be doing a lot of online shopping, so is everybody else. And the bandwidth for delivery is only so big. I mean, we've seen that a lot of the delivery services are having some challenges during this period.
Well, I just had my groceries delivered recently. I see we've got some data here on holiday cooking and baking.
Yeah, so there's a lot of articles out there about the holiday season and what cooking and baking is going to look like. There's people who are really, semi-professional chefs just don't feel up for it this year, and they don't feel like going the 9 miles because they're not going to have a lot of people over. Yeah. But at the same time, and you were mentioning, Amelia, those of us who are cooking more at home than pre-pandemic may be feeling a little burned out on the cooking front.
And I feel guilty saying that because I really recognize how privileged you and I are to be able to get the food we need and want, prepare meals for our families without having to worry too much. So I recognize that. But if I'm honest with myself, I've never been preparing meals with such consistency and quantity before, even though I am an avid home chef and baker.
Yeah.
It gets a little tiring.
Well, despite that, quite a few Americans still want to have their traditional holiday foods. The meals are just going to maybe be trimmed down a little bit.
Exactly. So let's go to the takeaways for our friends here. Those of you who are in marketing and advertising and communications, let's just share really quickly our hot take on what we think all this means. Susan?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway, and this came out so strongly in all of the questions, is that there's this enduring need to connect during the holidays with family and friends. I mean, for many people, that is what it's all about. And so not being able to do that as usual this year, brands need to have that and understand that when they're communicating with consumers, that this is a difficult year, not just because of the risk of getting a disease, but it's because this holiday season, you just can't do the connecting with family and friends that you would love to do right now. We also know that consumers are getting stir crazy. We've all been in our homes for almost 9 months now. So, anything that can make things feel a little different, new, exciting in a safe way, or something that's a little different in our home or, outside for those of us who are in climates where we can go outside right now. So that's something for brands to think about, like just spicing things up a little bit for consumers.
Absolutely. And our third point is the fact that, economically the ground has really, really shifted for Americans. We, as I mentioned a moment ago, 2 really, really important unemployment programs are scheduled to expire at the end of this year. That could not come at a worse time for millions of Americans who are going to face the threats of eviction and increased hunger. So this is a real thing. So, we need to, as much as we are able, help our customers make smart purchases, be judicious about the things that will bring them some pleasure and their little luxuries, and think about technologies and services that we can offer to help our customers navigate this really unstable, economically challenging time. The last point we want to make is that we want to take the long view. This is an opportunity for brands to think about the long view when it comes to building relationships and the strengths of their brands with customers. This is not necessarily, depending on the sector that you're in, this is not necessarily going to be the year when you see a massive amount of increased sales or profits, unless you're one of the sectors of the economy that's actually doing really well and seeing increased demand during the pandemic. So what are the ways that brands can show up for customers who may not be spending as much of their discretionary income as they used to? What are the ways that you can show up to show you care, that you're trying to make a difference, that you're supporting things that when the recession is over, and it will be over, the economy will come back, customers will remember and be there for you to buy from you and support your business and your brand moving forward. Everybody stay safe out there. Wishing you a really good holiday season. We hope you liked this little mini webinar from us to you. If you do, share some comments below. If you have some ideas of other topics you'd like Susan and I to cover on future webinars, also comment below. Be well. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care.